I just want to go ahead and preface this unboxing video of my Wonder Swan color with a brief introduction of Gunpei Yokoi. I have immense respect for this individual, and that's why I felt the need to go ahead and address some of his achievements and, his importance in modern gaming and basically how this guy helped to shape my childhood. Gunpei Yokoi was a employee of Nintendo for 30 years altogether. He became much more than just an employee of Nintendo. He became a innovator, a creator in the handheld genre. He's the godfather of modern handheld gaming. So he began his career, working at Nintendo back when they were making Hanafuda cards, back in the 60s. He worked on the automation systems, on the assembly line, producing the Hanafuda cards. In his spare time, he was a tinkerer. He was a creator from the very beginning. He created a toy in his spare time just for his own amusement, what would later become known as the Ultra Arm. This is basically just an extending arm toy. I think I played with a version of this, like a knockoff, when I was a kid. But basically, management saw that and, started putting him on other projects, such as Love Tester, which is kind of a bar game. You put your finger in the Love Tester, and based on pulse and body heat, it gives you a readout. He worked on a lot of different projects. So here's the story. A lot of us have heard, and I'm not going to be the first to tell this, but basically Gunpei Yokoi was riding on a subway train and saw this young businessman playing with a calculator, an LCD calculator. I don't know, maybe he was writing 8008 and looking at it upside down, spells boobs, whatever. But he noticed that there was a market for a handheld device that could, allow individuals to kill time in a pleasurable fashion. So based on this, he created the Game & Watch series, which is basically some of the first handheld games, some of the first popular ones. And you see a lot of characters in the Game & Watch series that would later come up in Nintendo games. And, some of the first ones, Mr. Game & Watch, but anyway, based on the success of that, eventually he would head up the team developing the Game Boy. Yeah. Let that sink in for a second. The guy created the Game Boy. It wasn't the first handheld system with the cartridges, but it was the first to really dominate and to really make the impact that it did, in Japan and the United States, worldwide. And beyond that, basically he had a hand in a lot of the major game franchises like Mario Brothers, Kid Icarus, Donkey Kong. Like, he was behind the scenes assisting in, different ways on that. Basically, he was an ever-present force at Nintendo. And, he designed the Rob the Robot accessory, which helped launch Nintendo in the United States at a time where game systems were persona non grata. Basically, he helped Nintendo he was an integral part in getting Nintendo's integration into the United States, becoming a household name. So anyway, upon success, this guy was like the goose that laid the golden egg so many times at Nintendo. Well, nobody's perfect. He was also part of the team that created the Virtual Boy. And the Virtual Boy was basically, is pretty much the biggest misstep of his career. And the thing is, the Virtual Boy was never meant to replace any major system that Nintendo had in place. Wasn't meant to replace Game Boy. Wasn't meant to replace the, Super Nintendo or 64 at that time. It was a stopgap measure that he was charged with creating. It failed miserably. And there are some that swear by this system. I don't know. I've never had the opportunity to try it myself, so I don't know. But yeah, this didn't make much of a splash in the market, so Nintendo basically allowed him to gracefully retire based on this mistake, which is, I'm not going to criticize, but seriously? Anyway, so Gunpei, being the trooper that he was, went on to found his own company and would eventually be licensed by Bandai to create the Wonder Swan, which is what I'm going to unbox for you today. The Wonder Swan is, pun intended, Gunpei's swan song. It was the last thing that he would be involved in creating, and he would never see its release. Unfortunately, he would die in a car accident before that would ever happen. And it's a damn shame. The virtues of the Wonder Swan above other gaming systems at the time, first and foremost, would probably be its longevity, its battery life. Its battery life. The Wonder Swan could provide up to, the original monochromatic Wonder Swan could provide 30 hours of gaming on one AA battery. Now that's amazing for the time. It's insane for the time period. When they went to color, because, at this time period where they were releasing this monochromatic system, the Game Boy Color already existed. So they were kind of behind the times on this. But that's kind of like a Nintendo trademark, the whole lateral thinking with withered technology mindset. So he very much was still a Nintendo man even when he was working with Bandai. But it was obvious that they needed a color console. So Wonder Swan Color came out of that. And it could still manage a very impressive 20 hours of gameplay on one AA battery. Again, huge. When you compare it to the original Game Boy, I think it was 6 AA batteries, and it drank like Cadillac. Like, it just drank up batteries. Like, you get a couple hours at best. So he created that, which was amazing. Also, 16-bit console. Not the first. I think that was... Honestly, that was, if we want to be real, that was... the Coleco was a 16-bit console. No, I'm sorry, I take it back. If we want to be real, first 16-bit console would be the Intellivision. But the first 16-bit handheld would be the Atari Lynx. But this was the first marketable and moderately successful. Some people still don't see it as a successful console, which is unfortunate. In Japan, it was reasonably successful. There was a library of about 92 games, including the monochromatic games. Yeah. I would say he made a good impact before he left. Anyway, here's the unboxing video.